One. Hey, college wrestling fans, it's JT1Wrestle here, and thus far, Cradlezone and I have talked about our dark horse picks for us NCAA Division One, 125 pounds through 149 pounds. Now we're going to do our best to get through 157 all the way through heavyweight, and I'm going to start this off by picking my 157-pound dark horse this year. I don't know if he's going to be an All American or not, but I do think he's going to have a really good season, and I'm going to pick Tanner Peak of Davidson. It's been a long time since Davidson has sent anybody to the NCAA championships. Their last NCAA Division One qualifier was Scott Patrick back in 2015. Tanner Peak is one of these guys that kind of goes up and down, kind of inconsistent. Last year went 15-5 on the season, was our SoCon runner-up, was one match away from being an NCAA Division One qualifier last year, and then just for the record, he finished one match away from being a place winner at the Southern Scuffle. A 4-2 win over Sonny Santiago of North Carolina really sticks out to me, and then on top of it, something that really sticks out to me is Davidson just got through hiring Scott Joel, who was an NCAA Division II national champion for UNC Pembroke a few years ago. I think having Joel in the room to work with these guys and to beat up on them a little bit is going to make them all the more tougher. I think this is going to be a standout year for Tanner Peak, and he is my pick for the 2026 prediction wise Southern Conference champion.
I do like that pick. I think Peak is very underrated. He went 13-5 last season. And when he went up against Hippolito when he was at Virginia Tech, he only lost 5-1 at the Southeast Open. But I will say I hope he does make the championship. He didn't start last season, it looks like. Looks like it was kind of a gap year for him because it says he hasn't redshirt. So if he wants, he can still redshirt this season, but I highly doubt it considering he is Davidson's best wrestler. And I know Davidson had someone else last year that was really good, but I think he barely missed out on the championship.
You put me on the spot here. They do have another wrestler that could potentially be an NCAA Division One qualifier right now, but and I'm not trying to make excuses here or anything, but I literally between NJCAA and NCAA Division One, so NJCAA, NAIA, D3, D2, D1, I wrote about 1,400 wrestlers. So sometimes I have trouble, remembering all 1,400 of them, but you are correct on that.
Yeah, so my pick at 157 is Charlie Millard of
Oh, great pick.
Minnesota.
Yeah, great pick.
Yeah, Charlie, he redshirted last year from Minnesota. He went 13-2, had some pretty good wins. Took out James Conway of Missouri. Barely lost to Trevor Chumley, who was fourth place. He beat Kobe Seibridge two times, beat Cody Chittum, and he's looking really good. Minnesota's got a really great squad. I'm pretty sure they're top five right now, and I would not be surprised if he's like a high All-American this year, especially with how stacked 157 is.
You kind of an understatement when you said that he beat Kobe Seabrick twice last year. Not only did he beat him, he had his way with him. I think both of those wins were major decisions or close to being major decisions that he had over Seabrick, who was a Big 12 runner-up last year. The only thing about Millard that sticks out to me is he always seemed it's kind of almost kind of weird when he's wrestling somebody of caliber or somebody even higher caliber, he always seems to be really up for the match. But if he's wrestling somebody who may not be ranked or may not be well known, he doesn't seem to be as intense or as into it. Because one of the losses he had last year that really stuck out to me and kind of puzzled me a little bit was when he lost to Moses Delphin of South Dakota State. That was kind of a weird loss to me. I wasn't expecting him to lose that match, but again, straight out of high school, so you're going to have those lumps when you're going from high school into NCAA Division One wrestling. I'm sure the Golden Gopher coaching staff has got all of those ironed out by now. So I'm with you. I think Millard could be on the award stand and potentially maybe even higher than expected.
Yeah,
I like that
157.
pick.
pretty stacked weight class, but who's your 165?
165. I am going with Max Mayfield, who is a former Northwestern Wildcat, a three-time NCAA Division One qualifier for the Wildcats. He will be competing for Missouri this season. He made the Midlands Finals last year, and what really sticks out to me is he had a 8-1 major decision. No, I guess it wasn't a major, but a close to being a major decision over Chris Minto of Nebraska. I think the new atmosphere being down there in Columbia, Missouri, being with that coaching staff, being among those types of wrestlers that he's going to have in the room with him is going to make him all the better. I think Max Mayfield is going to be a big surprise. It's going to open up a lot of eyes at 165 pounds this year.
Yeah, he had some really good wins. Like you said, he beat Chris Minto, who was a fourth place All-American. He beat Evan Mogg, who was a qualifier for George Mason. He had his way with Stony Bull of Purdue, but he also took down Tyler Lillard and Nico Ruiz in the season, both who are really good. But he had a questionable loss against Bryce Hepner of Ohio State. So my 165, I'm taking Drake Rhodes of South Dakota State.
Another good pick.
Drake had a really good season. Unfortunately, he got hurt, which affected him a lot, but he had really good wins against Aiden Riggins, uh, Nico Ruse, Luca Wick, Stony Bull, Kyle Moshe of Hofstra. Hofstra's a good program. Jack Thompson destroyed Tate Piccolo. That was hard to watch, but I will say I think Drake is a All-American contender for sure. He came from Iowa, and Iowa's really good with developing talent.
And so is Damian Hahn at South Dakota State. Damian Hahn's really great about building talent, and you'll notice if you go back and look at from the time he took over the position, the Jackrabbits peak at right times a lot. They do a really good job of peaking at the Big 12s. They do a good job of peaking at the NCAAs, maybe not to the expectation of everybody else, but they got some good kids on their team, and Damian Hahn is a great coach.
Yeah, they're getting Logan Swenson back from injury. He's a last time he wrestled, he was a round 12 finisher. They got Brady Workout 125 after Tanner Jordan graduated. Derek Cardinal's coming back. I heard that Bennett Berg is bumping up to 197 this
Oh
year,
wow, that
which
would
will
be
be
neat to see.
interesting because they're losing the 174K divorce. He's graduating. They're bringing back Luke Rasmussen at heavyweight, who had a really good Big 12 championship.
Um, I'm not. Are you positive that DeVos is out of eligibility?
I'm pretty sure because whenever he was wrestling last year, they said he was a senior, and I'm looking at
Oh, I
wrestle
want
stat.
to. I want to take that into too much consideration. I can't tell you how often that they call guys seniors when they have plenty of eligibility left. There's even been times where guys have been called seniors end up having 2 years of eligibility left. So, but
Well,
you could be right. He could be done. I'm not sure.
well, the roast he started in 2020 and he redshirted, and ever since then he's wrestled every year. He had no medical red shirts after that, so I think
Okay.
he is out of eligibility
Okay. Well,
unless
that
he
may.
tries to get another year, but I doubt that.
It's pretty funny the way that works, isn't it? Oh
Yeah.
wow. All right. So do you have another 165er as well?
Uh, no, I don't think so. I have two 174 pounders, but I'll let you say yours first.
Okay. All right. So 174, I actually got three here. I'm going to try to make this quick, but 174 is probably one of my favorite weight classes just because of how open it is and how guys can come out of nowhere and do really well. So, out of my three picks, real quick, pick number one, Jared Sima, Northern Iowa, have a very similar type of story about him that I had about Julian Farber earlier. Very tough kid. I think once you get inside this guy's head, he can beat just about anybody. He's a scrapper. God, is he a scrapper when he gets on the mat? I watched him defeat Lenny Pinto, all either round of 12 finisher or All American last year, 14-8. He himself was a round of 12 finisher back in 2024. He wrestled at Cliff Keen, Las Vegas, took seventh place there. And my opinion, I think maybe in the opinion of many other people too, Cliff Keen, without a doubt, is the toughest in-season tournament in NCAA Division One. He was also third at the Soldier Salute. I think there's no reason at all why Sema shouldn't be an All-American for the Panthers this year.
Oh, I will say he can, but like you said, 174, it's a very stacked weight class because you got Levi Haynes coming back, Simon Ruse. I think that Gabe Arnold is going to go 174 oh no, because you got Patrick Kennedy at
Yeah.
174. So you got a little gap there between Iowa. But I will say Sima can All-American, but I would not be surprised if he doesn't All-American.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. So another pick I had at 174. My second pick here is Miles Katz of Bucknell. I already spoke earlier to the testimony of the coaching staff of Dan Werzenberger and the coaches he has on staff with him there and how great of a job they're doing. Katz is just a tough guy that puts the nose to the grind. Um, he had a third place finish at Midlands, which I thought was really showed how his tenacity and his heart coming back to take third place at the Midlands there. He had a 4-1 sudden victory over Augustine, who was round of 12 last year. And then probably the most impressive thing I watched him do last year was an 11-3 major decision over Simon Reese of Cornell, who took fifth in the NCAA Division One nation. So I think he, Katz is one of those guys that if he's like we were talking earlier, you got to have a little bit of luck in your back pocket. You put him into a bracket, get inside of his head, he gets on a roll. He's going to be hard to stop.
Yeah, he had some really good wins. Like you said, that he beat Lucas Augustini. He beat him twice, actually. He just kind of had his way with Ruse, and Ruse was a fourth place finisher.
I
He
think it was fifth, wasn't it?
yeah, it was fifth, excuse me. But he also beat MJ Guyton 9-6. He beat Alex Kramer 16-2, and almost beat Garrett Thompson of Ohio. Only lost 4-1 and beat Clayton Whitning of Minnesota 11-9. So yeah, this guy is definitely a sleeper for sure, and he can probably take down some of the top guys when he's at his peak.
And I don't mean to hog the 174-pound bracket, but I just saw so many names that stuck out to me. My last pick here at 174 is a guy that I think most of the nation has forgotten about. I hope they quickly learn about him again. Matt Olguin of Oregon State, two-time NCAA Division One qualifier. Um, I don't know exactly what happened. I never did hear the whole story, but in 2024, he just suddenly in the middle of February was gone. No explanation, no story, no anything, was just gone. And then he missed the entire 2024 2025 season last year. But if you want to know the type of talent we're talking about, Pac 12 champion has finishes at Cliff Keen, Las Vegas of third and seventh. And let me tell you about some of the names that this guy has beaten. He has a win, he's beaten Bubba Wilson twice, has a win over Anthony Valencia, and here's a name that you might recognize from Stanford, and NCAA national champion uh, Shane Griffith.
Griffith, he beat him
Beat him
twice.
twice. So Matt Olguin, if he is healthy and 100%, this is a name where people are like, who, where, what? I don't remember that name. And suddenly, it won't take very long. I think he's the kind of guy that if he's wrestling 100%, not only could he challenge for All American status, this may be a guy that could be a national champion this year.
Yeah, like you said, he disappeared in 2024, most likely an injury, but he didn't wrestle 2025 due to a medical red shirt. Looking at that 2024 season, he had some good wins. He almost took down Braden Thompson and Nico Ruiz, but he beat guys like Alex Wilcox, Stony Bowl, and looking at 2023, beat Bubba Wilson twice. He beat Shane Griffith twice. He beat Wyatt Sheets 7-5, and looks like he also beat Austin Yant of Northern Iowa. And I think Yant was a All-American. No, he was a round of 12 finisher for Northern Iowa. So he definitely has some big wins. I don't know if he's a national champion contender, but he is, I'd say, a top five contender for sure. So my pick's at 174. Some people are going to question this one, but I got two, but I'll go with the first one. It's Gavin Sachs of Oklahoma. Most people think he's out of eligibility, but so far it's looking like he will get another year of eligibility. He went 15-7 last year, had some really good wins against Luke Augustine of Pittsburgh, took down Jared Simmer, uh, had a even though he got destroyed by O'Toole, only lost by major decision, and saying that about O'Toole, it's something. Took down Dalton Hawkins of Army. He beat Brody Conley twice. Beat Alex Kramer. I will say, and look at this. He only lost 4-0 against Dean Hamity, and we know Hamity was a monster last year.
Yeah, good pick. I don't question it. I think it's a great pick.
So my other one, I already mentioned him, Luca Augustine of Pittsburgh. You know, Luca, he's definitely looked really good. I will say that I'm surprised that he hasn't All-American yet with how he's looking, but he went 20-10 last year. He was only one win away, and he only lost 7-6 against Patrick Kennedy, who would be fourth, but he's taken down Lorenzo Norman twice, who is really good. I'm surprised he hasn't All-American yet either. And he's taken down Matthew Singleton, who All-American for North Carolina last year,
North
or
Carolina
NC
State.
State. Yep.
Yeah.
And he's taken down Jackson Turley of Rutgers and kept it really close against Cade DeVos, only lost by 1 point. And he took down Danny Barnacle and Danny Wask and only lost by one against Simon Rose of Cornell.
So I've been a collegiate wrestling fan since the early 90s, and then I became an absolute, fixated fanatic by about 2000 during the 2001, 2002 seasons, really when I started to become what you know me as today. So I'm going to say this. I've been, a hawk or whatever you want to say that, someone that, watches it like a hawk for collegiate wrestling for, you know, however many years that's been now, 23, 24 years now. So longer than you've been alive. And I got to say this, Pittsburgh has been one of those teams where every season you know that they have the potential. They have the kids on their team to do very well, and they do sometimes. They do produce guys that do very well. Um, but they also have kids on their team some years where you know that they have the potential and they have what it takes to be at this level, but yet they don't quite rise to that level. And that's been a problem at Pittsburgh, for at least ever since I've been watching collegiate wrestling. So I'm not sure what it is that's happening there or why that is, but I agree with you. Augustine's one of those guys where you you just you look at him and say this kid's going to be an all-American at some point during his college career, but then again you also look at it as he could very well run out of eligibility and then that could never happen. So I definitely see what you're saying there about Augustine.
Yeah, so moving on to 184, who do you got?
184 pounds, we're going to look at Binghamton, going to look at Will Ebert, and here's what I'm going to say about Ebert. Every season the college wrestling NCAA Division One does their absolute best to try to put out the best top 33 wrestlers per weight class. As tough as it is, though, there's always going to be some kids that are left behind. If I were to sit down and ask myself, or sit down with those who made the decision, Will Ebert did not finish top 33 last year. He had to be either 34th, 35th, or at the very lowest 36th. Very tough kid. He won the Cornell Invitational last year. He had a 4-3 win over Smith, who was an All American, and then he also had a 2-0 win over Edmund Ruth of Illinois, who was NCAA Round of 12 last year, All American 2024, and then NCAA Round of 12 back in 2023 as well. Ebert's one of these kids that I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that he wrestled for Binghamton, which is not a Big Ten school, not a Big 12 school. It's a little EIWA school up in New York. I think that had something to do with why he wasn't chosen last year as an NCAA at-large wild card pick. But I think this year, not only will he be an NCAA Division One qualifier, I don't know about All American or not. Maybe that's a little bit wishful thinking there, but I think he's a top 12 kid. And I think he'll have some really big upsets this year as well, like he did last year.
Yeah, so looking at my pick, I got two picks, but I'll go with this guy first, Eddie Knightenbeck of Wyoming. He had a great true freshman year, made the national championship. He was a round of 16 finisher. He took down TJ McDonald of Oregon State and Nick Fine of Columbia. Had a really good Big 12 championship. I believe he got fifth place. Took down Colton Hawks. He beat Evan Bachman, even though that was medical injury, so I'm not counting that. But he's also beaten Dennis Robin of West Virginia. And he had a really good match between Dustin Plott. He got a takedown, was only lost 9-4, and almost beat DJ Parker of Oklahoma, lost 4-3. But I will say he kind of reminds me of a young Stephen Buchanan. Stephen was a uh 97 for Wyoming. He started out at eighth place and then proceeds to, I believe he was a third place finisher his next year. I could see Knight being an All-American for sure, especially since, he's got Joey Novak as his partner. We know Joey, he's predicted to be like a top three finisher this year. I think he got seventh last year.
Yeah, that's a great pick, and I think that Mark Cody and the staff out there at Wyoming are doing a phenomenal job. And not only that, but look at you were saying earlier in part one of this series how important it is to have an athletic director and an athletic department that supports your wrestling program. Look at what's going on at Wyoming. It's obvious that they support wrestling and they want to see their wrestling program succeed. That is
They got a
painfully obvious.
they got a brand new facility. A look at it. It's just beautiful. Mark Branch is doing a great job, and they even got a new
I said,
coach.
yeah, I meant to say Mark Branch earlier. Sorry, Coach Branch. I don't know why I said Mark. You should have corrected me on that. Mark Cody, Oklahoma guy. So I don't know why I said that. But Mark Branch, yes. Yep.
And they also hired two-time national champ Dean Heil, if I'm saying that right, Dean Heil from Oklahoma State, as an assistant coach, which helps them a lot. Wyoming, I definitely say they are a dark horse. Do I think they are a top three for Big 12? No, but I do think that they can be a top five team with teams like OSU, Iowa State, Oklahoma, Northern Iowa, West Virginia, Missouri, South Dakota State. It's definitely the second best conference, but Wyoming, I would not be surprised if they have a couple of All-Americans this year. They lost Joey Volk in the portal after he transferred to Minnesota, but they're also getting Christian Carroll. He's finally going back to heavyweight, which I think he should have been at Oklahoma State and Iowa State. But I will say that if Wyoming's going to be good, it's definitely going to be the higher weights that are going to carry them this season.
Yeah, good pick. I definitely agree with you on that. 197 pounds. I already kind of mentioned him earlier when we were speaking. Another Bucknell kid to show the growth of the Bison wrestling program under head coach Dan Werzenberger. He was only a freshman last year, won 23 matches. He was fifth at the Midlands. He was an EIWA runner up last year. I think he's gonna, like I said before, a lot of times when you have guys wrestling their first full varsity season, they have some lumps along the way. They, iron those out, take care of those, get better when they become sophomores, so on and so forth as their career continues. I think he's a guy that not only, I don't know about this year. Maybe this year I'm asking for too much, but I think as a junior and as a senior, I think we're looking at a guy that could be a two-time All-American for the Bison.
Yep, you're talking about Dylan Bechtold. He had a pretty good national championship. First he lost to Joey Novak, then he beats Remy Cotton, Michigan State, now at Rutgers. Beats Evan Bates, who from Northwestern, and then he transferred to Missouri this year. He's also beaten Michael O'Malley from Drexel. Uh, Kept a pretty close match with All-American Max Stout. He beat John Posixton of Rutgers, Brock Zorensky of Ryder. He's beaten Bates twice, actually. I'm looking at it now. Uh, um, Kept it pretty close against Isaiah Salazar of Minnesota. So, yeah, I could see this guy being an All-American for sure. He's ranked number 13 right now by WrestleStat. So, I'd say that's a really good pick. So the pick I'm getting, not I think a lot of people don't know about him. He had a huge upset last year. Patrick Brophy of the Citadel.
Oh, great
He
pick.
came in as like the 21st seed, I believe. He just destroyed Luke Serber of Oklahoma State. Sadly, he fell to Gabe Solos and Wyatt Volker. Solos being a round 12 finisher, but Brophy's definitely super underrated. He has a great freestyle background, but really, really good in my opinion. He's beaten guys like Sonny Sasso, Bradley Hill, uh, Luke Serber, kept it close against Trey Munoz of Oregon State. I could see this guy definitely being an All-American for the Citadel this year.
And speaking of the Citadel, speaking of the Bulldogs, I kind of looked over their roster this year and kind of did some comparisons in the Southern Conference. When we talk about the Southern Conference, historically Chattanooga, Appalachian State's always been tough. In recent times, it's been Campbell that has kind of ruled the roost there down in the South. I think the Citadel could challenge for the team title this year down there at the Southern Conference. They got a good team, and if they wrestle to the potential, I think last year they had they had some champions last year that kind of came out of nowhere. Some guys that weren't seeded number one, but ended up finishing in first place there at the Southern Conference. So I think the Bulldogs are one of those teams that, may not be getting much credit, may not be getting much recognition, but they definitely deserve it, I think. And I think they're gonna prove that even more this year than what they did last year.
Yeah, they had Gyler Sims at 125. He was a national contender. Carson Desrosner at 49 contender. Thomas Snipes, he was a qualifier as well. And we already talked about Patrick Brophy. And yeah, they got a really good team. I could see them taking it. And speaking of Campbell, we already know that there's a chance that team's gone, especially since they have no scholarships, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. I tell you, this is a whole new subject. I'll keep it quick, my opinion on this real quick. But if you go back and look at the history of Campbell Wrestling was one of those teams that, you know, probably like once every 5 years they'd have an NCAA Division One qualifier, and then they hired Kerry Colat to take over the program. And my God, I've people talk about turning a program around. And all my time of watching collegiate wrestling, I can't think of a time when a program was turned around more. I mean, from down here to up here, and the amount of time that he did that, turning them into a team that produced not only NCAA qualifiers every season, but NCAA All Americans or at least All American candidates every season. And to see the fact that the school and the athletic administration and the president and people just don't seem to really care about that, it just goes to show you that I don't know. It's like you would think that they would get behind that. You think that they would look at that and be like, "Holy cow, we got a great wrestling program. Let's get behind it. Let's try to build it. Let's try to make it even better than what it is." But instead, you have these people that just don't seem to care. It's really sad. It goes to show you that there are people in positions that don't belong in those positions and don't deserve to be in those positions. That's a reflection of it.
Yeah, it's really sad. Thankfully, that's how I felt about OU. Thankfully that they're starting to care more about the program and they got an additional 5 scholarships this offseason. They didn't get any revenue from the money they're getting, but getting 5 scholarships is really good.
Yeah. Moving on to heavyweight, I have two picks here. My first pick is going to be, we already mentioned him earlier, Luke Rasmussen of South Dakota State. This is a kid that you never know he's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get when he steps out onto the mat. What impressed me most about Rasmussen last year is he has an on switch. He wasn't able to find it most of the season. Come Big 12, he's like, "Oh, here's my on switch." And he turned it on all the way up. He major decisioned Lance Runyon 13-5, who had a 7-2 win over him in the dual meet. Just had his way with Rasmussen at the dual meet, but then Rasmussen turned that around and had his way with Runyon at the Big 12s. And then on top of it, probably something that Cradlezone doesn't want to hear right now. But he had lost earlier in the season to Juan Mora of Oklahoma, and then he ended up defeating Mora 14-11 at the Big 12s, taking a third place uh, championship. I think Rasmussen, look at him. He is a huge kid. He's a very, very big. He's not a little heavyweight. He's one of the bigger heavyweights. And I think if he can just go out into the mat and just have a attitude of, a kill factor. Sorry about the train in the background. Got a train going by right now. But if he goes out in the mat and has that killer instinct, I think this guy can definitely be an All-American this year. So that's my first pick at heavyweight. My second pick at heavyweight is going to be Hunter Katka who transferred from Virginia Tech to Rutgers. So I'm not exactly sure what happened last year. I know that people want to point at the fact that Jimmy Mullen pinned him in the second period last year, and in an official match. But also keep in mind, Katka does have wins over Mullen. He beat Mullen 4-1. So, who exactly is the better wrestler there? I think it was a back and forth ordeal. I don't necessarily think that Jimmy Mullen is the better wrestler out of the two. I think they're both very, very tough. Katka is a three-time NCAA Division One qualifier. Was one match away from being an All-American. Matter of fact, lost a one-point match to Zach Elam of Missouri to not be an All-American. I think Katka is a very tough kid, and I'm really happy to see Rutgers get him. I think that the Scarlet Knights are going to develop him into a very tough heavyweight, and I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if he doesn't finish top 8 this year.
Well, I'll get to see personally how good he is because OU is going to have to duel Rutgers in January, and he's going to have to go up against Juan Moore. But I will say that Capta is really good. Looks like he just didn't have the best. His junior season wasn't the best, but he's also got some good wins. You know, he's like you said, he's beaten Mullen before. He's beaten Bradley Hill, Lucas Starter, Grady Grease. He's beaten Ryan Cacta. Yeah, he's got some pretty good wins, but I just think Mullen was the better wrestler. And I think after that loss, Cacta, like his mind was kind of wasn't like he wasn't there because to win a wrestling match and to be a good wrestler, you have to have a really good mindset. It's like if you tell yourself you're not good or you're not going to win, you've instantly lost the match.
And I was gonna,
So,
I gotta quick here. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but it's got to get your opinion on this. Do you feel that Mora is going to be the starter this year? Like he's definitely over
oh,
Hill.
I definitely will say that Moore should be the starter. I know Bradley was 97, but he had a shoulder injury last year, which is why he wasn't the best. But I will say both have looked really good in the room, as well as Richard Thomas, who is most likely going to be like the third string. He had a decent Richard freshman year. He went 4-5 with some good wins. Almost beat Luke Rossman. Only lost like 7-8. But I will say Juan definitely should start, considering he's that an All American contender in my opinion when he's healthy. Because last year after the Hendrickson match at Bedlam, he was hurt and was wrestling injured. That's how most of the team was. They were wrestling a lot of hurt guys like Bradley and Juan. DJ was hurt. I think Gavin was hurt, but I will say I wouldn't be surprised if Bradley were to start, but I definitely would be really surprised if Juan doesn't start. But that's
So
why
is Mora your heavyweight pick?
no, my heavyweight pick is
Well, guys, I don't know what happened there, but somehow or another, lost. We lost. We lost Cradle Zone real quick, so I do apologize about that. I'm gonna try to see if I can't find him. We'll see what happened there, but we lost him. He must have lost internet connection. Give me one moment here. Gonna see if I can't figure out. Okay, so I just heard from him that his computer unfortunately died on him. I'm gonna see if I can't have him tell me his picks real quick. So waiting on him. I'm gonna see if he can't type me his picks real quick. He's on his phone right now. So, dude, sorry about this. Never had anything like this happen before, but I know, knowing him and how well he follows NCAA Division One wrestling, he'll definitely have some good picks. He's gonna try to come back here real quick. I'm gonna see if I need to send him a link again, or if he can just come back. Yeah, so sorry about that, college wrestling fans. Never had anything like this happen before. Might have to just have him type them out to me. Technical difficulties. That's what they say. So, college wrestling fans, I'm anxious to. I thought Juan Mora for sure would be one of his picks, but I guess it wasn't. But there's definitely a lot of tough kids to pick from at the heavyweight division. With Wyatt Hendrickson and Gable Stevenson no longer in the game, both of them out of collegiate eligibility. It'll be fun to see who the new king is this year in the heavyweight. Uh, let's see here. He's going to try to make it back real quick to put on his picks. I'm going to send him a link real quick. So, real quick here, let me try to get him back on.
There we go. So
Are you
sorry.
back now? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I've
so
never had anything
sorry.
like that happen before. But anyway, my friend, you got about 4.5 minutes, so let's hear your heavyweight pick.
So I'm hoping OSU fans will be on my side after this. I'm gonna take Connor Doucette for them. I know Doucette, I think he's a two-time NCAA qualifier. Yep, he's a two-time NCAA qualifier. He's had some pretty good wins. Beat Wyatt Hendrickson, Dayton Pitta, Josiah Hill. Had some pretty good matches with Luke Rasmussen and Zach Elam. I definitely will say that he's an All-American contender after a year with Wyatt Hendrickson in the room and Luke Serber. He definitely should be an All-American contender, but I feel like out of everyone on that team, he's definitely like considered the guy out of the group. Like everyone else, you know for sure they'll be an All-American or they're gonna at least be an All-American contender, but he's kind of the odd one out because when you look at last year the wins he had weren't really impressive. Like, at the Ramos against Air Force, he only won 2-1. And you would think after being with David Taylor and Wyatt Hendrickson, Chris Perry, that he would look more dominant.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of a funny thing sometimes, and every once in a while you'll get these kids that just they you don't know why, but they just like looking back like at the career of like James Green, for example, always wrestled extremely well, was a four-time All-American for the Huskers, but there was a kid from Virginia um named Jed Moore who was always for some reason every time they wrestled, Jed Moore would lose to kids that Green could beat. But yet Moore was always a very tough match for Green every season. So it could have been something like that though too when he wrestled against Air Force. Could have been a situation like that.
Yeah, I know I'm not an OSU fan. I never will be, but I definitely do hope that like he's a Luke Serber kind of guy. He's
Yeah.
been very loyal. He's been putting the work in. Last year kind of broke my heart that Serber didn't All-American, especially with the season he had. But I hope Doucette, if there is a guy that OSU I would pick to All-American, I'm hoping he All-Americans, especially since this is his final year with OSU before he graduates, or maybe uh he'll transfer out because they're bringing in Drayshawn Ross next season, and we know how
Good.
good Ross is. He's
Right,
supposed to be
right.
this next generation type of wrestler, the type that should win at least two championships.
Yeah, well, anyway, guys, we are running out of time right now. I want to thank Cradle Zone once again for being a part of this. This has been a lot of fun. Love your insight. It's obvious to me that you are passionate and knowledgeable about NCAA Division One wrestling. Love talking wrestling with you. And guys, make sure if you're not already a fan, not already a follower of Cradle Zone, get on Twitter, follow him. You can also follow me, JT1Wrestle on Twitter. We love college wrestling, as you can tell, and let's look forward to 2025, 2026.